everyone, this is Larry. I haven't done one of these videos for quite a while, and thought I'd do one on some of the things I've been experimenting with over the summer, some of the research, some of putting that research into action, trying it out on my family, what I've learned from myself, my daughter, and my wife's experience. And what I've done primarily this summer is explored the concept of carb cycling, cyclogenic keto, adaptation, kind of diminishing returns, U-shaped curve, finding the sweet spot, and also ranging from camp to camp and kind of coming up with your own best N=1 approach to not only regaining your health, but then continuing your journey and making it better and better as the years go by. So this summer marked 5 years into my health regain. I'm stronger than ever, healthier than ever, and that's a great thing. Apparently that's very rare, but I had to tweak things. And one of the main tweaks I did was actually fast more and also incorporate more cyclic keto. And the reason for that is that I was interested, I had an opportunity to research what low carb athletes do, and they are fat adapted, they are low carb, but they're also carb cycling and doing targeted ketogenic diets. But I am not an athlete at all. Works for them. How well would that work for me? And if it did, why would that be the case? So the first thing I want to say is that there are different health stages. I needed low carb keto quite consistently without a lot of starches to heal myself initially. And I like to think of it as insulin resistance, but explain it like tennis resistance. So tennis is one of my favorite sports. It's very healthy. I can handle tennis, but if I have an injury, if I already have a sprained ankle, then that same activity, tennis, can actually make me more damaged. So some of the carbs that I'm using now, when I was insulin resistant, I would not be able to handle them at all. But because I'm a lot more metabolically healthy, can I handle them now? And why would that be the case? So two key papers that I came across, resources on the internet, was one by Bill Lagosis called Ketosis in an Evolutionary Context, and I'll either link in the video description or in a comment. The other one was Chris Masterjohn's AHS Ancestral Health Symposium 2012 talk. So what Bill Lagosis proposes is to look at ketosis in an evolutionary context, and he's incredibly complimentary of all the benefits of ketosis, as I am. Anti-inflammatory, signaling molecules, great brain energy, lower inflammation, a host of benefits. And so it turns out that humans are the champions of ketosis in the animal world. So why would that be? Because we gather our nourishment and food primarily with our wits. And as big game hunters, there were times when we would not have had access to food. So under those conditions, we had to get stronger and smarter. But if you notice, the object of ketosis was to stay strong, to gather or hunt enough food to essentially come out of ketosis. Or another way to look at it is you have to put on fat first to survive the winter to be able to burn it. So no one can know for sure, but I think that cyclic ketosis was probably our evolutionary default. So given that, I was open to exploring what it might mean to me. So then, especially as I've regained my metabolic health. First, I should say that me and my wife always had a high carb day, higher carb real food, about once every week to 2 weeks. I actually think that was essential for us healing. The sun shifted. And a big reason why that I learned in retrospect was for hormones. As amazing as ketosis is, for both me and my wife, the higher occasional carb days seem to help our leptin resistance, insulin sensitivity, believe it or not. So we become more leptin sensitive, insulin sensitive, ghrelin. It may help not so much adrenal fatigue, which is a misnomer, but help support our adrenals, help with cortisol, help with thyroid. So there's a host of reasons why it helped us. So I was exploring a little more. Now, it's important to remember the context. Context is so important. So I was experimenting with carbs primarily after doing OMAD, or 1 meal a day. So I would have, let's say, if it was at home, I would fry up some potatoes. I would only use tubers and white rice, and you can look up Safe Starch Concept by the Jaminays, and I think there's a lot of robust science to that concept. Very, very low in toxins, no fructose, just glucose, which is not metabolized at all by the liver. And if you have room in your liver and your muscles for glycogen, which I usually do after an OMAD and even my non-athletic life, then your body's smart enough to replenish the glycogen preferentially. So let's say I was out and I had some of these days. I would have cheese fries at a place that used an oil that I seem to do well with, peanut oil. And then even sometimes my daughter and I would share, and we shared those cheese fries. We would share a healthy ice cream. So my context is that I just fasted the entire day. I'm metabolically healthy. I'm using tubers. I'm getting a burger with avocado and bacon, but no bun. It's a completely different context for my previous life, where I was insulin resistant, maybe having fries 3 or 4 times a week with ketchup, with a bun, with having eaten 200, 300, 400 carbs previous to having those French fries. So a completely different context. So what you'll find in the literature is people having great success with carb cycling. It seems to be an incredible compliment when you get your N=1 sweet spot correct to actually enhancing fat adaptation. You get very good at getting back in ketosis. So those nights with the cheese fries and the healthy ice cream shared with my daughter, I would measure my weight the next day. I lost weight and often had to put the belt even a notch up. So over this summer, I've lost about 5 pounds from the start of the summer. I'm up a little bit from my all-time low. I'm about the mid 170s instead of 168, but my waist size is the same. I have more muscle, got a little livelier, friendlier. I did it because for me it worked. I can do pretty incredible things with my appetite under control for health. So I did it for the simple reason that it was working for me. Now, it did not work as well for my wife, and I suspect a couple of things. I think her gut currently might not be as healed as mine, and possibly her mitochondria isn't quite as healthy. So she may have to do a little tweaking with either more fasting, more keto, low carb, or both. And there's also a possibility, I mentioned that Chris Masterjohn video, so it talks about amylase, and turns out that humans have polymorphisms throughout our population. 99.5% of us, as opposed to all other primates, have more than 2 copies of amylase, whereas our primate cousins only have 2. What this means is a couple of cool things. We always thought that initially digesting starch was a bad thing. Turns out that that produces some insulin. So what this means is that there's more of a coordinated dance between insulin and the starches that you're consuming if you have a lot of amylase to keep blood glucose steady. Number one. Number two, they found people with more amylase actually produce less insulin over the curve the more copies they have. So it may just be some of my heritage from 23andMe is a little Middle Eastern, then Europe. She might have been hardcore Northern Europe and had and indeed have fewer amylase copies than me. So that's something I'm hoping to test one of these days. But I found that if I have real food carbs with healthy fat, I feel no ill effects at all because I'm fat adapted. I don't have any hyperphagy. It's making me extremely healthy if I get the balance right. So I say I can have potatoes because I don't have potatoes, meaning the frequency matters, your health state matters, your lifestyle matters, and that's what I found from my Summer of Science exploration. So keep getting stronger, keep enjoying life, dance with all these concepts, make them your own. All right, take care.